Hey everyone, and welcome to the ATA podcast. I'm Matt Baird.
And I'm Andy Ho. This podcast is brought to you by the American Translators Association. Each month, we bring you news and insights from ATA. We look at what's happening across the association, explore the benefits of membership, and discuss the translation and interpreting professions.
That's right. You know, the T&I industry is always changing, and we hope this podcast will help you keep up with it. ATA was founded over 60 years ago to advance the translation and interpreting professions and foster the professional development of individual translators and interpreters. We have nearly 9,000 members in more than 100 countries.
If you'd like to know more about ATA, we'll have some information for you at the end of the show. And you'll also find links in the notes.
All right, let's get started with a few quick announcements.
Listen up, ATA members. The ATA School Outreach Contest is on, and the prize is free registration to ATA's 64th Annual Conference in Miami this October. How do I enter? Well, I'm glad you asked. You share your story with any educational level or age group of students, either in person or virtually, and then submit a summary of your experience along with a photo or screenshot. For more details, listen to episode 53 of this podcast or follow the link in the show notes, where you'll find ready-made presentations, tips for taking the winning shot, and more. Also, ATA is still accepting nominations for the 2023 elections. This year, we'll be filling 3 officer and 3 director positions. The election will be held at the annual meeting of voting members during ATA's 64th Annual Conference in Miami this October. Nominations must be received by March 15th. Any ATA member can submit a nomination, and self-nominations are welcome. Finally, are you a first-time listener or new to the ATA podcast? If you answered yes, be sure to check out our past episodes to learn more about our association in the T&I industry. For example, you'll find a whole series of podcasts about specializations in translation and interpreting. If you're looking to specialize, you won't want to miss these valuable interviews. For information about these announcements and more, check out the links in today's show notes.
All right, hello and welcome to today's podcast. I am your co-host, Andy Ho, and today I am joined by Tony Guerra. Tony has more than 20 years of experience in the management, marketing, and development of multicultural communication services. As a native of Havana, Cuba, he has worked as an independent contractor, translator, and interpreter, as well as in-house with companies and agencies, working as a provider, purchaser, and coordinator of language services. His Spanish-English interpreting services specialize in legal, medical, government, and marketing. And he has served as the president of the Delaware Valley Translators Association, director on the ATA board, and on a whole bunch of ATA committees. Welcome, Tony. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Andy, and thank you for requesting about information about the mentoring program.
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about the ATA mentoring program, which has been around forever. If you haven't heard of it, you are now officially being informed of it. And Tony is the co-chair of the mentoring committee along with Deborah Wexler. So he's going to explain the program today. So perhaps you will become interested in becoming a mentor or a mentee, regardless, well, not completely regardless, but somewhat regardless of your experience, as Tony will explain to us. So, Tony, to start off with, can you give us an overview of the program?
Sure. So, for those of you that don't know, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is one of the most unique benefits of the ATA membership because it allows the one-on-one pairing of a mentee, someone who's just kind of getting started in their profession or shifting their professional focus, together with a mentor who has experience and success, and they will share a common goal to enhance the business practice. Now, this program is strictly peer-to-peer, and it is put together with a committee. There's, I believe, 7 of us now. And we receive applications, and then we're tasked with the pairing. So the program is really asking the mentee to be the person driving, the person who is very clear and asks for guidance in a certain aspect of their business practice that they wish to develop. I think this is so, we always talk about how the ATA membership is so extraordinary, the talent and the incredible level of proficiency in our membership. I've met so many amazing people in my time at ATA, and the opportunity to tap into the knowledge base of some of these people, what they know, what they've figured out in developing their careers, and to allow them to share that with somebody that is aspiring. I think that most of us belong to ATA really for that reason, to just elevate who we are as translators and interpreters.
So you said something very interesting. You said it's mentee driven. Can you tell me more about
Yes,
that?
of course. So a mentee is someone that is looking for guidance. Say, one of the most common topics or requests are, I'd like to develop private clients as opposed to agencies. So how do I go about doing that? So we will match this applicant with a mentor who has a lot of experience and a lot of private clients, and they will share the steps that they've taken to achieve that. Um, it is up to the mentee to follow the advice and to make sure that they are um, complying with the recommendations. If the mentee doesn't do that, it is not up to the mentor to quote unquote babysit or to prod them or to, make the schedule. Hopefully, and we've had tremendous luck and success with people being mutually, when there's really good chemistry and they're both excited about working together, and there's regular checking in and there's agreement about how they're going to do this. So it's important, and we try not to over manage, micromanage, let's say, the program. People develop their own um, schedules, their own rhythms, and their own milestones, and come up with a plan. And some people, we have repeat mentors that have a really good understanding and almost I don't want to say down to a science because it's everyone's different, and the objectives will vary. Some are very simple and straightforward and require less scrutiny, I should say. But again, it's very organic, and as I said, the variety of our membership and the talent that is available, it's just very, very exciting, and we're still learning about how to improve the program, what makes really a successful pairing. So it's a constant process. The committee is just fantastic. The people that behind the scenes that are really involved, and we really work as a team in making this happen.
So you said the mentors and mentees are matched. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so let's talk about the application process. How does someone become a mentee or a mentor? So on the ATA mentoring webpage, if you go to the main ATA website and look at the mentoring webpage, there's a description. There is an application form, which is you no longer have to download it. You can just write from the web, fill it out, and it goes directly to the committee. So the committee receives an application from a mentee, and it is not language driven. It's not language specific. It's about business practice. So we will receive it during the application process, which is between January 1st and March 31st. And then the month of April is all about matching. And that's a very intense period for the committee because we will receive all the applications. We will look at our mentoring resources. Now, previously, when I came into the committee, there had been a list of what we call mentor resources. Really interesting people, but it hadn't been updated. There were some people who had retired, some people had actually passed. And so also the kinds of mentee requests that were coming in were very new and very indicative of the changing times, of the changes in our industry. So we were tasked with bringing in new mentors and people who are on the cutting edge and are working with, say, Trados, the latest TM software, or who are in right now I'm blanking out because I have all of these that I wanted to have the new application on hand. But what we're trying to do is list the different types of categories that people could fill out. The better the match, the more successful the pairing will be. I mean, that seems to make sense. But so many times previously, and we would have people saying, my mentor was great, but they really didn't help me to prepare for the certification exam. And we'll be like, well, it's all over the place on the webpage, in the form, and there's even a pledge that people take. It's about meeting expectations, and nowhere in the program is it said that it is language specific or it is about translation skills or interpreting skills. That is not the program. So it's really, again, I just can't drive this point enough because it is really about us in our task in pairing good people and in the mentor and the mentee sharing mutual expectations where we have the most success, where it's really realistic and people are really committed to making something happen, and they have fun. Not only are better translators and interpreters resulting from this program, but good friendships. And that's really fantastic. As I said, I think we're a unique community, and the opportunity to tap into it through a structured program is really helpful because I often say to people, imagine if you had to find a business consultant to help you take your business to another level. How much would you have to pay that person and how often? And the idea or the possibility that you have this available without a fee as just part of your membership benefit is absolutely fantastic. And it's not only a terrific community, it's a very generous community, very supportive. And that's what keeps me involved. That's what I gain from my volunteer work and my membership. So I do it gladly, and I really enjoy the committee, which is very diverse. We're trying to support more diverse topics, more diverse community. Again, because it's not language specific, we don't try to match French speakers. As a matter of fact, we discourage so that there's not that possibility of, having a mentee say, would you mind editing this translation for me and giving me feedback? Obviously, not not the intent.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. So let's back it up. If somebody is interested in becoming, let's start with a mentee. You said there's an application process, and the deadline is coming up, March 31st. Is this a highly selective process? Do you have to have a certain number of years under your belt or a maximum number of years under your belt?
Well, for a mentee, there's not really a set limitation. However, it is not for people just right out of school. we do have the savvy newcomer for that. And very often we will redirect some applicants that are just fresh out of school, that we would encourage them to get a sense of who they are and what they want to dedicate their practice to. And once they've been practicing for at least a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, ideally, then I think they are ready for a little guidance and perhaps in organizing themselves. And maybe one of the topics that we've brought up as a possibility for in the application process is once you've achieved your certification, how do you leverage that into better business? For instance, so pairing that person up with someone who has achieved their certification and has managed to utilize it to improve their profit margin and the level of clients and the types of jobs they're getting, then that is really, really valuable. But I think as people are starting out, it is there's a kind of finding your identity, and I don't think that the mentoring program is right for that. I think the savvy newcomer has terrific resources. So what we're trying to do is to be supportive of the membership along their career trajectory. And I will put a little plug in for the mastermind program, which Dorothea Rosset recently started and is also fantastic, which is more group and peer-based. There's not someone guiding, it's the group guiding, and they pick a topic. So that's something worth investigating, and that can also be found in the mentoring webpage. So what makes a good mentee? Somebody that's clear about themselves, about what they would like to have from their practice and how to go about. Sometimes people are transitioning from being in-house, as I did, to being freelance. And that's a really interesting transition. And there are, definite steps that one can take along the way to make that happen and to create a successful practice.
Okay, so if someone wants to be a mentee, they apply. They need to kind of have their feet under them a bit.
Yes.
And then they have to have a clear idea of something they want to work on with a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get matched with a mentor. Okay, so then how long does this program last? It only runs once a year, correct?
That is correct. And it runs from May until the end of October, which coincides with the conference. It's 6 months, and we have felt that that is a sufficient amount of time to make something happen, and just to establish and the recommended or the desired goal. Often it's not, at the end of that period, everything is like in place, but certainly there are the steps are taken. And I will tell you that it's been helpful to establish a primary goal and a secondary goal, because sometimes we don't have the exact match. We've had people, for instance, that are literary translators, or they aspire to be. And we have some excellent literary translators in our membership. So how do you break into that industry? Or audiovisual? We have a burgeoning, booming, and Deborah Wexler, who was the co-chair, she's also the administrator of the AV division. And so that's a hugely popular, and it's a very growing industry, and people are just mystified. How does one begin to enter that? So we've been recruiting mentors to meet that demand. But sometimes there'll be a secondary goal. And when there's not a perfect match in the primary goal, or it's close, the secondary goal will say, well, we can also help you to achieve this. And again, the mentee will submit an application, and the committee will try to find a mentor that's best qualified to meet that, who's available and willing to consider it. So the application is then passed on to the mentor, and there's this individual and they're interested in doing X, Y, and Z. Would you consider being their mentor for 6 months? And they'll either accept or not if they feel that they can help them.
Okay, you talked about recruiting mentors. How do you do that? Do you have to apply to be a mentor? Do you have to have a certain number of years of experience if you want to be one?
Well, yes, the application process for mentors is open. There are several ways that we have recruited or expanded our mentor roster, so to speak. There are people that have been on there, and there are people who just love to mentor and give of their time and are very good at it, and they have a certain skill set. And then there are certain applicants which are more specific in their needs. And so I mentioned the audiovisual need. We did not really have audiovisual mentors, but having Deborah as my co-chair and on the committee, and she has a mentoring program within the AV division, she said, I can think of some people that I can recommend. We can reach out to them and present that possibility. And so sometimes it's a matter of people within the committee reaching out to people that they know and saying, you would make a great mentor. Would you consider it? Here's an application. Go to the webpage. We'd love for you to fill it out, and we'd love to add you to our roster. So there is real recruitment. That's how I was brought into the program. Suzanne Van Isle, who was one of the originators of the original mentoring program, who was just fantastic, she approached me and said, Tony, we could use you. There's someone here that I think would really benefit from your mentoring. And I had never even thought of it. And after I did it, I thought, this was great. I'm so glad I did it. So I did it a few more times. And now, I'm on the committee. But it's also, and that's why I really appreciate what you're doing here, is to just put the word out there and have people think about giving back and making themselves available, because we also now have mentors that were once mentees, and they really understand. So there's that cycle, and that's really a beautiful thing to see.
Wow. So, okay, so you've been all along in this process. You've been a mentor multiple times. Now you're co-chair of the committee. In your years of experience, what makes for a successful mentor-mentee pairing?
Well, I think we put together a video just because we wanted to make the mentoring experience a little bit more accessible and communicate to the membership how satisfying that can be, and what a great gift it is. And I talk about a shared experience, a shared expectations. I talk about the disappointments that occur sometimes. You can put it in black and white. Sometimes people are reading it, but they've already set in their minds, this is what I want, this is what I need. And then there's a disappointment. So when there's not a disappointment, I can't say that every pairing is perfect, but we have a pretty good record of people being satisfied. We ask people to fill out mid-term evaluations and final evaluations on their experience, to rate it and to make recommendations. And we take it very much to heart, and try to implement those recommendations so that each time it's just better. It's more focused. The application form this year even has it's more tailored so that it can be more specific, and we can just match people more closely instead of just random, I'd like to have a better business, I'd like to make more money. But really how, and what is it that you really need? Sometimes it's about time management. And there are people who are very, very good at guiding that. So I've mentioned AV, I've mentioned literary, I've mentioned time management or certification. These are all categories within the application process, which people can check, and hopefully we'll get it right.
All right. Well, I hope people are excited now to become either a mentor or mentee. And Tony, I hope you and Deborah are ready for the influx of applications that I'm sure are to follow. Is there anything else you want to leave listeners with? Anything that they should know?
So, what I do want to say, thank you for that, because we don't have a set limit. It's not a rigid number. When we say that it is a competitive process, it we try to be very analytical and very fair and give every opportunity. Sometimes it requires maybe a little bit back and forth. We received your application. There's some things in here which we like, because in addition to the checklist of desired objectives, there's also an essay, an open essay that people can just express themselves and their hopes and aspirations for the program. And sometimes it requires a little bit of tweaking so that when we go to the mentor, there's that clear information and saying, okay, this is what this person wants. This is what this person needs. Am I the one to give it to them? And not every, I'll tell you, we had about 80 mentors in our, what we call our resource, in our roster. And we had to pare it down, but we're still recruiting, because I think as the industry is evolving, translation and interpretation, I think the needs are shifting and people are becoming aware of new possibilities in their business. And we want to be able to help them with these kinds of transitions. And again, we're learning as we go along. We're not perfect, but again, I want to just tip my hat to the terrific committee that is currently helping to make this program a success. Very committed people. We're trying to streamline it with avoiding having to scan forms and DocuSign. So even just the fact that you don't have to download it from the web, but you can just fill the application out right from the web page, and it goes directly to our committee. And headquarters is also a tremendous support for us. So there's a lot of great people behind the scenes trying to make this happen. And if anybody has any questions, of course, they can email us. But really, I think it's pretty self-explanatory between the application form. There's a couple of videos that talk about the mentoring experience, and just the program that Deborah and we presented at ATA in Palm Springs, and there's a video of our presentation. If there are any details that people want to find out about, like who's on the committee and why things have evolved the way they have.
All right. So everyone listen up. Deadline is, what was it? March 31st coming up?
That's correct.
Okay, you've
That's
got
correct.
some time, but better
Yes.
start thinking about it. And it's easy to do. And as Tony mentioned, once again, I want to reiterate, this is a free program that is a benefit as part of your membership. So you're basically already paying for it. Take advantage of this guidance from your esteemed colleagues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andy. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much.
All right. And I hope to see everyone in Miami, right?
Miami, yes.
Yes. All right. I can't wait. I'm in the Northeast, so it's pretty cold here right now.
Oh, that'll be a nice
gray.
vacation for you.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
All right.
All
See you
right.
then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. That's a wrap. We'd like to thank everyone who helped produce today's show.
Chris Silva recorded the announcements. Derek Platts mixed and edited the audio. Mary David and Teresa Kelly at ATA headquarters provided editorial and technical support.
If you learned anything new in today's podcast, I bet there's someone out there who would like to know it too. Don't be stingy. Tell them about the podcast. I've gotten to know so many great podcasts that way. I promise they'll thank you for it.
And if you're not an ATA member, listen up. I've been a member for over 20 years. Joining ATA literally launched my freelance career. It opened the door to a profession I knew very little about, and attending my first annual conference led to my very first freelance job.
And I joined for the first time in 2004 as a student. My first conference blew my mind. Nowadays, the demand for translators and interpreters is at an all-time high, but finding quality work isn't easy. ATA membership can make the difference. And ATA isn't just for translators and interpreters. We have teachers and professors, hospital administrators, language company owners, and technology developers, just to name a few. Companies and institutions can join too. Our membership includes language companies, universities, and government agencies.
If you'd like to know more, go to ATA's website, atanet.org. You can also check out past episodes of this podcast where we talk about the benefits of membership and what's currently happening in the association.
But before you go, please take a quick moment to give us a rating or write a review. Tell us what you like, why you listen, or about your favorite guest. Your feedback is super helpful, and reviews help other listeners find the show too.
We'd really appreciate hearing from you. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Talk to you again soon.